Hello, welcome to Ending the Discriminatory Consequences of Age Bias in the Legal Profession. I'm Andy Kramer.
And I'm Al Harris.
And we're glad to have you here today to talk with us about age bias in the legal profession. What we wanted to start with is to give you an interesting statistic, which is that about 43% of the lawyers at large and mid-sized law firms are millennial lawyers, most of them in associate ranks. And the partners, over 40% of the partners in those firms are 50 to 60 years old. 50 and 60 years old. So that what we have is we have millennial lawyers at the bottom of the hierarchy. The interesting statistic to compare that to is that in a recent study of Fortune 200 and NASDAQ companies, it turns out that many of the CEOs and the general counsels are actually millennials. So what we have is we have clients who are much younger than the senior lawyers in the law firms. And so that's an interesting thought as we talk about age discrimination against both older and younger lawyers in the legal profession.
Perhaps one note before we get started. I think in this Me Too generation, we're so used to focusing on gender bias, and obviously racial bias is front and center in our society, that very often we don't think about the fact that there is age bias, that there is ageism. So what we're going to be trying to convince you of today is that age bias is really a problem. It's a problem in the legal profession. It's a problem generally.
What we do know is that part of the problem is that because of stereotypes, there's a bias, this, as Al referred to, this unconscious bias, that the bottom line is somehow longer than the top line, even when it's not. That what happens is there's a gender achievement gap in the legal profession. So that the legal profession has been historically and remains very male-focused. And so what happens is we have women graduating from law school and moving into the profession at about 48% of the pool, but yet as we look at how many practice law, percentage between associates, non-equity partners, equity partners, Fortune 1000 general counsels, and managing partners of large firms, we go from 48% getting JDs to 4% being managing partners of the 200 largest law firms in the United States. What's going on here? It's obviously not that women aren't as smart, aren't as capable, aren't as ambitious, although some people would take that to be true because of the stereotypes that they hold about women. What is it that's actually going on here? And so in Al's and my research, as well as in the social science research, it turns out that stereotypes and the biases that flow from them become an important factor in gender bias in legal organizations. So we start with these communal behaviors. What happens when a woman is behaving in a communal way?
Well, again, simplifying somewhat, but only somewhat. Because women are assumed to be, expected to be, and punished if they're not communal, when women are communal, when women in fact in the legal profession behave in accordance with all of those wonderful warm adjectives that
warm fuzzies, yes,
adjectives
nice.
that Andy went through, when women behave in that way, They are liked. They are viewed as everyone's favorite person to run the administrative errands, but they are certainly not viewed as the dynamic, decisive leaders that are going to win that litigation that your major client has just assigned to you. They're not going to lead that negotiating team on that M&A, and they're not going to be able to negotiate that healthcare deal that is going to be so important for big pharma. So when women are the way they are expected to be, they're liked, but they're not viewed as having the stuff, having what it takes in order to really get the job done.